to the grand stack. A stack is essentially a series of technologies that are used together to accomplish a goal. There are many different stacks. They can be built in many different ways. The grand stack comes with a lot of really great tools, and we'll go over some of them. So what is the grand stack? The grand stack is a combination of GraphQL, Apollo, which is an implementation of GraphQL, React, which is our front-end library where we build the user experience, and Neo4j, which is a graph database. It combines all four of those things in one, gives you a really easy installation method. You can use all these technologies without the grand stack installation if you like to, but they've done a really great job of making everything work well together. Let's go over a little bit of the grand stack architecture. So on the front end, we could see that we are using React, which shows us what essentially displays information and interactivity to the user. We use Apollo client, which is, again, an implementation of this GraphQL, this way of describing the information that you want. Apollo client calls Apollo server, which is our GraphQL API, which is essentially, think of if you had a database, description of everything in that database, how it works, how to call on the information. And then that connects to our Neo4j database or any other type of database. And it converts essentially the descriptions we told the database how to behave. It converts it to that database's specific language. It gets information back and it sends it all the way back to the client. So we'll talk a little bit about Neo4j, what's different about it from other databases. It's a graph database rather than a document database or a SQL database. It's really good for data-driven applications. It's a lot faster. It comes with a lot of visualization tools. It is very new as well, so it's not like tried and true and tested, but it's pretty strong. And you can use a lot of lots of interesting sorts of queries on it, right? So you can ask the question of like, tell me all of my friends that like vanilla ice cream that live in Manhattan who are the ages between, so on and so forth. So, which is really hard to do with other databases. And the reason why it's easy is because each one of these nodes right here, these circles, could be a person. And this would be, or right here is a perfect example. You have a person and another person, and we have a relationship between those two. Right here, it's is married to. So we could use that relationship to ask questions about the different nodes in our database. GraphQL, right? So again, this is just a way of modeling the information in your database. And you could potentially grab data from multiple different databases. You only have to ask for your data once, even if you have multiple databases, whereas in older database models, you have to make a request, get that request, and then you have to send another request to get more specific information. This lets you just say, I want the user, I want their ID, their name, and all of their specific information, and it'll already be connected to the several databases in the background if you have them. We take a GraphQL first approach, which means you take your project and you model your data in this way. You really define what a user is, what every user may have, what property or attribute the user may have on them. You think about how to construct this data model first. And the nice thing about that is you could take this data model and the front end can build on top of it and the back end can build on top of it at the same time without interfering with each other, because everyone knows what the data model looks like. So lessons learned so far working with the Grand Stack. You could use their starter project. It's super easy to get up and running. You can use a free Neo4j sandbox, which is the database, and you use the GraphQL first approach. You quickly set a project up by, again, defining what your type definitions are in GraphQL. You use this create Grand Stack app command, and it builds a whole repository and a whole project for you. You go ahead and you update your GraphQL schema, and it will create all of your functions for you. So like get a user, delete a user, update a user. It does all of those things for you. And then it's set up to be quickly deployed to Netlify or other services. It comes with the configuration file, so you can get up and running in 20 minutes or so. And on the next page, we have a bunch of resources. If anyone wants to check them out, I'll share this link. You can go ahead and look at the GrandStack starter video, look at the documentation, even if you just want to get a better sense of what it does. And that's the GrandStack.